Finally today, throughout the show, we've heard a lot about Scottish agriculture, but what does it take to really manage a herd in those type of conditions? Once again, here's Kurtis Hair.
We've seen a lot on this journey through this emerald country, but one aspect that we haven't quite delved into is, well, the most relevant to sunup: agriculture. Just a mile or two up some stomach-churning, twisting narrow roads is the farm for the Royal Dick School of Veterinary Services, where it's time to find out what it takes to manage animals in this environment. We meet with farm clinician Alastair Macrae, who says one of the biggest challenges producers face is something who pretty much everyone who's visited this country has become familiar with: rain. But not for the reason you would think.
Bits of the UK can get pretty dry during the summertime, believe it or not, but that's mostly down in the south of England. We mostly have our biggest problem of being too wet, actually. So this was a good example. Figures that I've seen for the UK suggested about 30% of the UK winter wheat didn't get sown in the autumn time last year. And so we've had to put in things like spring barley, for example, to compensate, which doesn't give you the yields and it doesn't give you the starch content that you get out of winter wheat. But yeah, just having a decent window to be able to harvest it, some dry weather to be able to make silage is kind of one of the key things that we need to have when there's too much rain.
While this forever wet ground can obviously present issues to livestock, it's what the livestock does to the ground that's the main issue.
One of the biggest issues we have, and in the UK the farmers call it poaching, and it's basically when the cows turn the fields into mud. And that then obviously destroys the grazing structure, and it means you stop preventing grazing for both this year and potentially next year if you do some fairly severe damage with it as well too. So keeping cows on most farms will use a rotation paddock system. We're actually quite lucky, believe it or not, in that we're on the east side of Scotland here. You can double the rainfall on the west side of Scotland. So they have, some of the places in the west coast of Scotland are getting 3 meters of rain a year. Yeah, I guess most diseases of dairy cows are the same the world over. They get mastitis, they get lameness, and they struggle to get back in calf again. In terms of lameness, that's a big issue in UK dairy cows, and having them outside in muddy conditions, we get foot rot, we get digital dermatitis, we get sole ulcers, we get those are the most common conditions.
Like Oklahoma and the rest of the world, diseases are always on top of mind, especially this year in the UK.
The big thing the UK is slightly nervous about at the moment is we have blue tongue down in the southeast of England. At the moment it came over from the Netherlands last year and it blew over the English Channel, and there's evidence that it's probably stayed in cattle over the winter time in the southeast of England, and our midge vector is now getting up, and we don't really know at the moment how far blue tongue is going to spread from the southeast of England.
Although Scotland is known for sheep and dairy production, the interest in crossbreeding is growing.
So we have quite a big suckled calf industry in Scotland, so beef that comes from purebred beef animals, but we also have a lot of our beef comes from dairy crosses as well too. So we select our replacement dairy heifers and breed them to sex semen, but then everything else will get put crossbred. Most of our crossbred animals then get sold on to another local farmer at about 2 months of age, and they'll get reared for beef production in the UK.
You know, walking around the farm, there's some similarities between Scottish ag and Okie ag, but it doesn't take much to remind you that you're a world away. A castle will do that. From Edinburgh in the UK, I'm Kurtis Hair.